So now it is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker. Randy Lioz is going to be giving his Icebreaker, a 4 to 6 minute speech to introduce us to him and him to us. It is called Open to It All. Randy Lioz, Open to It All.
All right, well, thanks so much, Carol, for the warm welcome, and to the club for the opportunity to introduce myself. So my name is Randy Lioz, and I've lived a pretty interesting life. I think part of the reason for that is my openness to new experiences. For example, when I go out to eat, I love sharing meals with others. I'm really a maximizer. I want to have as many different experiences as possible in life. So I want to talk today about how that life has unfolded and the surfeit of different experiences that I've had. So when I was a kid, I was a lot more socially awkward than I am now. So many of my first experiences were thrills in nature. When I was 17, my brother was studying abroad in Australia, and I was able to get the first taste of scuba diving. And I've now done several sites around the world with scuba diving. On that same trip, I also got a chance to do bungee jumping. I went with my dad, and he did a beautiful swan dive, but I was terrified, and I jumped off feet first and looked a little bit awkward. But since then, I've tried whitewater rafting, rock climbing, parasailing, and even skydiving. But maybe my first sense of the power of connection was when I was just out of college, and I was given the opportunity to drive around celebrities for a 9/11 memorial event on the USS Intrepid in New York. I met the baseball player Howard Johnson and told him that I'd eaten at his restaurant. It's not actually his restaurant. I met James Brown's band and learned from his backup singers that he was always, to them, Mr. Brown. And the band invited me to smoke a J with them, but as a responsible driver, I declined. When I started my career in the automotive industry, many of those cool experiences began to involve cars. I started testing cars professionally and even living the life of an automotive journalist, but actually getting paid better. I also started taking cars to the track and even raced competitively for a bit. There was a series called the 24 Hours of Lemons, where the car had to be worth no more than $500. That was quite an experience. But I did go through a layoff in the auto industry, and I started to branch out professionally. So I did some automotive journalism for a bit. And in that time, I even learned to drive a Ford Model T. In a Model T, there's 3 pedals on the floor, and none of them do anything that you think that they do. This particular episode was a surprise for Edith's 107th birthday. And at the time, she was the oldest licensed driver in the US. So that was quite an experience and a surprise for her. I also started doing things like driving Uber and Lyft, and even renting out cars that I own for events. These weren't that lucrative, but it was a great way to meet new people. And I absolutely loved doing that. Along the way, I became a little bit of an amateur chef. I've been a Blue Apron customer so long that they've actually sent me a Blue Apron. And they explained the reasoning behind the name. And I've been a little bit more adventurous with my cooking and even made my own sushi. During times when I was looking for work, I started experimenting more with performance as a focus. And that started with being the lead singer of a rock cover band. Here we are, album cover ready. But we only played 2 shows. And after each one of those, we would lose a member. So after the second one, we declined to restock our roster and we packed it in. But it was performing that got me riled up. And I've also tried my hand at stand-up comedy. In 2016, I performed a wedding for 2 of my good friends, and this was such an amazing experience that the following year, I actually went pro. And I've since performed dozens of weddings. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's actually given me a chance to use my performance skills to literally bring people together. And I've been lucky to work with some amazing people as my couples. That same year, I started doing another role that was focused on bringing people together, when I joined Better Angels, and I started helping people to bridge their political divides. I started running workshops for all types of people, including students and workplaces. And I even got a chance to run a workshop and some debates in the very last building that's still standing, which hosted a Lincoln Douglas debate at Knox College in Illinois. I also led the pivot from in-person workshops to online workshops when the pandemic set in, and at the point when Better Angels changed their name to Braver Angels. I also started running hybrid events for the organization, where there were in-person and online attendees. Now I'm taking on another role, entrepreneur. When I left Braver Angels in March, I started a consultancy to help organizations foster healthy cultures with respect and belonging for people with a variety of viewpoints. One of the main reasons that I joined Toastmasters was to be able to speak about this mission more impactfully. And to do this, I'm really trying to stretch myself beyond just the techniques that I learned at Braver Angels. I got turned on to the world of improv comedy, and I'm now taking classes to build these skills, which I've started to incorporate into my work. I believe that my life has been so much richer for being open to experiences, from embracing the world around me to all of the people within it, and also leaning into my love for bringing people together. I'm really grateful for the chance to share my journey of discovery with all of you and to encourage everyone to lean into they focus on a natural sense of curiosity. For me, it's led to such a rich and rewarding life, and I'm excited to see where it continues to take me. So thanks very much for your time.